Good afternoon. I'm Angela Lane. I'm the Talbot County Finance Director. I am here today to discuss the 4 ballot questions that the County Council has placed on the November 2020 election ballot. The first question, question A, is a charter amendment to waive the residency requirement for certain county employees. Currently, 3 county employees, the county attorney, the county planning officer, and the county engineer are required to reside in Talbot County. A vote for this amendment would allow the county council to fill the position with the best person for the job, regardless of their residency. However, this would require 4/5 of the county council to approve waiving the residency requirement. Question B is a charter amendment that clarifies the language for how the county sets the real property tax rate. The real property tax rate is set based on the assessed value of all of the properties in the county. The current language in the charter says that the properties to be included in setting the rate are those properties existing on the county real property tax rolls at the commencement of the county fiscal year. However, the county does not maintain the real property tax rolls. Those are maintained by the Maryland State Department of Assessments and Taxation. We do not have access to those rolls except for when we are sent a file to generate the real property tax bills each year. However, the Maryland State Department of Assessments and Taxation does send to the county the constant yield tax rate certification. This is sent to the county every year in February. This is what we use to calculate the tax rate every year. So this charter amendment is to clarify the language of how we calculate our tax rate each fiscal year. Voting for this amendment will clarify the language in our charter and will have no fiscal impact to any taxpayer or citizen in the county. It is just to correct the language in the charter. Question C would eliminate the Consumer Price Index urban qualifier on how our taxes are generated each year. Currently, the county council can set a tax rate that will generate 2% more in real property tax revenues or CPIU, whichever is less than what was generated in the current year. So to clarify that, right now, the county council, if CPIU is over 2%, they can increase real property tax revenues for the upcoming fiscal year by 2% from the current year. It's on total county revenues. It's not on the tax rate. But with the CPIU qualifier, if that is less than 2%, the county council can only generate enough revenues up to whatever that CPIU number is. CPIU is urban consumers. We obviously are not an urban area. In addition, the Consumer Price Index looks at goods and services that a consumer purchases. Governments don't purchase those same goods and services. Governments provide services. So we are purchasing labor and purchasing often very different types of equipment and supplies. We purchase ambulances, we purchase police cars, we purchase roads equipment. Those are not in the Consumer Price Index criteria. Voting for the amendment would remove the CPIU qualifier. So if this amendment passes, the county council would be able to increase total real property tax revenues by 2% in the upcoming fiscal year over the current fiscal year. This could have an impact to taxpayers depending on assessed values and depending on where CPIU would have been if it was below 2%. We did an analysis back last year. The CPIU was 1.9%. If someone had a home assessed at just over $300,000, the differential between the 1.9% CPI and being able to generate the 2% growth was less than $2. That's not a significant impact to a taxpayer's tax bill. Question D would allow a temporary increase above what is currently allowed, or even if the CPIU modifier is eliminated, would allow the county council to increase the real property tax rate by 1 cent. This would only be for 5 years. 1 cent would generate approximately $750,000 a year and would increase property taxes for citizens. There is a financial impact, but the financial impact is an investment in the county. If your home is assessed at $200,000 a year, you will pay $20 more per year with this 1 cent increase if the county council chooses to add this each year. But if they add a 1 cent increase for 5 years, if your property is assessed at $200,000, you will be investing $100 over 5 years in the county. If your property is assessed at $400,000 a year, you will be investing $40 a year in the county, or $200 over the 5 years. This is a modest investment in the county and allowing the county to provide the necessary services to our citizens.
But the bottom line here is we are at a crossroad when it comes to the delivery of public safety services in this community. And the voters of Talbot County have to decide what level of service that they want. So my responsibilities for overseeing 911 and our paramedics and emergency management. But I'm going to break my comments down to a couple areas. One area is personnel, recruitment and retention. And I want to talk a little bit about meeting the challenge of response. And then finally, I'm going to wrap it up with a couple of statements about our volunteer fire service. So first of all, what we're finding is it's very difficult. It's becoming very difficult to recruit new paramedics. Now, that's not unique to Talbot County. I just read an article in this morning's paper, a big city in the United States on the East Coast, 6 out of 10 positions they can fill. So 4 out of every 10, they can't find paramedics. The last time we advertised, we got 1 paramedic that applied, and that person ended up going and taking a job on the Western Shore, which we have a very difficult time to compete with them. So it's a competitive market, supply and demand. So we're facing that, and at the same time, you look at why are there not as many paramedics there as there used to be, and what we're finding is, number one, the exposure to violence in the back of ambulances, and when they respond, we're seeing that increase more and more. We are seeing more paramedic burnout. These are young people that come to work and they're exposed to traumatic things over a period of time. And so it's just becoming difficult right now. So we have that competitive market. The other thing is the younger workforce today is a new workforce. They don't come in necessarily and look at how much they're going to make per hour. They're actually career planning, and they recognize that a paramedic's career, is after 25 years, you look at injury curves and they go up, and they're looking for competitive retirement programs as well as pay. So again, that adds to the difficulty. As far as retention goes, we do have that exposure to the violence, the exposure to trauma. They work multiple jobs, so they get burnout, and that injury curve, which I mentioned. Anyway, so So those are the challenges we face, Dave. It's a supply and demand. It's a competitive marketplace right now. We are competing with the Western Shore, the mid-shore counties, and the lower shore. The other I want to talk about is response. And so we try to achieve in Talbot County a national standard, and that is that 90% of the time we're able to deliver an advanced life support unit to somebody in trouble. Now we meet that most of the time. We're about 7.5 minutes in some areas of the county. Other areas of the county, it's anywhere from 10 to 13 minutes. Now what's happening over the last couple of years, we have a term that we use called saturation periods. We have 5 units that work 24 hours a day and a supervisor. Anytime we get 4 to 5 units that are saturated, we mark that. And we've seen that increase over the last several years to over 200 times last year, where we did not have an ambulance available to respond on a call in a timely manner. So we know that we need to go to a 6th crew. And we have an area in the county that needs that service especially, and that's the northern end of the county. Historically, the volunteer fire departments have served EMS needs, but they're having more and more difficult time to do that. So we're having to pick up that need, and certainly that's the case in the north end of the county. And that comes with expense. So, we're looking next year at having to add that unit, a 6th unit, which would cost about $1.8 million to get that up and running, and about $500,000 a year to support it. And that would be able to help us achieve that 8-minute response time 90% of the time to advanced life support calls. In the interim, we put together what we call a surge unit 3 days a week to try to get those saturation periods down. And we're having a difficult time covering that with existing personnel because we don't have authorization or the money to hire these new individuals. So this ballot question is critically important as we're at this crossroad for emergency medical response. And people need to understand that. Now, people also have to understand that they have a choice to make. We work for them. We work for the voters of this community. I'm a proud member of the community, and just like them, I have to make a decision of how I want to pull that lever. But this is a crossroad. This is a real need, and hopefully I've articulated it.
The problem we're facing right now in law enforcement, as everybody should be aware, is that applications are down, way down. And even prior to, this last 6 months where police across the country are, in some jurisdictions, down as much as 90%. Our office is down well over 50% in applications. But historically, the sheriff's office has struggled. When I took over, we were the worst. Had the worst benefit package and one of the worst pays, just compared to our surrounding counties, the ones, our neighbors to the north and to the south. Caroline, Dorchester, Queen Anne, were all had much better benefit packages. And only a handful of people have ever, I was shocked to learn when I took over, and only a handful of people have ever retired from here. That coupled with the recent change in Maryland law where now the retirement system my deputies are in now, I just hired a young man out of college who actually just bought a home here with his wife, with his fiance, and he has to work 34.5 years before he's eligible. Easton Police have a 22-year retirement. All the surrounding counties, all the sheriff's offices on the shore have LEOPS, which is a 25-year retirement. And kind of talking about what Clay was hitting on, we really don't want sheriff's deputies with 34 years on the job, still on patrol, still working night shift, rotating shifts, because it really is a young person's game. So 95, because of that, 95% of the deputies have left. If you look at the last 20, 25 years at the sheriff's office, over 95% have left for other jurisdictions because of more competitive pay, because of a more competitive benefit package in retirement. So we're competing with them. I'm competing with Easton Police and Queen Anne's County Sheriff and Anne Arundel County. I lost 3 to Anne Arundel County Police. They were paying $20,000 signing bonus for existing police. That's how much they're struggling to get police officers. Plus a 20-year retirement, 14 years less than my people have. and an instant pay raise. So we're just not competing. We're not even close to being competitive. You know, to get into that program, we're working on some estimates now with the state of Maryland, but I think it's going to be $400,000 or $500,000 more a year, and the county just doesn't have that money. Where are we going to cut that money? So, in other budgets, where are we going to cut that? Are we going to cut it in Parks and Rec? Are we going to cut it in the library? Are we going to cut it in the school? And we can't cut anything in the schools under Maryland law. Not that we should, but we're going to take it from county roads. Where are we going to find that money to be competitive? And it's, you know, Clay and I are both struggling with the same thing, trying to attract and retain good people. And, you know, I ask my friends and neighbors when we talk about this, who do you want responding? Who do you want coming to your house in an emergency? Do you want what I would call a leftover, somebody who didn't get hired by one of the bigger organizations that have better pay and better retirement? They couldn't get hired by those organizations. I don't want leftovers, Dave. We're a vibrant, wealthy community. I know that it's going to hurt some people it's going to cost money to do this, but you know, who do we want as a paramedic showing up at our loved one's house? And who do we want as a sheriff's deputy showing up in a time of emergency? Or who do we want protecting our kids in the schools as SROs or teaching our kids DARE in the schools? I want the best we can get. I live here. I'm invested here. And I hope the citizens are taking this seriously and really considering, really putting some thought to it. I myself will be voting for B, C, and D, even though it does nothing for my retirement, does nothing to my pay. But I'm willing to make that investment in our community, in our young deputies here, who, quite frankly, are putting their lives on the line every single day. And I think it's a small price to pay for our citizens to get the very best and retain the very best.